Hey, what's going on, guys? Jason here, and thanks for stopping by the shop today. We're out here working on our YJ again. It's been a while since we did it. I've been a little bit involved with the local car community, so I've kind of neglected this, but it's time to get back to it. If you remember the last video, we installed our new steering linkage and we also put on our new track bar. So today we're going to put on our Rusty's forged sway bar end links, and we're going to go ahead and refurb the sway bar and get it on there. That's pretty much going to tie up the front end except for the chrome moly axle shafts. Now unfortunately I don't got the funds right now for those, so we're going to go ahead and throw the hubs on and get this thing on wheels and tires anyway and just kind of move forward with it. Just because we don't have all the parts doesn't mean that we got to stop completely. So let's go ahead and chug along and get started on it. Alright, what a pain that was. Alright guys, so the first thing that I did is I went ahead and did a quick rattle can refurb on the sway bar. You've seen me do rattle can refurbs on several parts of this Jeep so far. I really just sand down the scale, get everything off there, put self-etching primer on there, and go back through with a coat of epoxy coat. So the next thing that I did is I went ahead and put some Mystic all-purpose grease on the inside of these bushings. It's going to cut down on a lot of the squeaks. If you don't grease these bushings, you will end up getting a lot of squeaks, and you can actually start to rust away your sway bar where the bushing and the sway bar meets because water will get trapped in there. So you put some grease in there and that prevents the water from ingressing to that cavity and starting any kind of rust. So we're going to go ahead and get our sway bar installed now, and after that we will come back through and install our sway bar end links from Rusty's Offroad. So now that we've got the sway bar installed, we can go ahead and put our track bar bolt back in. Now we had to back this out to make sure that we had clearance to get the bracket up. And I'm also, in the meantime, going to switch it out from a crimp nut to a nylock nut. Alright guys, so the next thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and grab my new hubs for the front here, and I'm going to go ahead and bolt them up. Now, we don't have the axle shafts in yet. I'm going to go with chrome moly axle shafts up front. So once again, I changed the plans on you. Don't have the funds for those yet, but we need to go ahead and get this thing on wheels and tires so we can move forward with a lot of other stuff. I'm just going to go ahead and get these bolted up, and we'll see where we're at from there. Once we get the weight of the suspension on the leaf springs, we should be able to go ahead and throw on the sway bar disconnects and set the angle of the sway bar right. Alright guys, so if you take a look here, what I've done is I went ahead and just put some hubs and some wheels and tires on the Jeep. And the next thing I'm going to do, now that we got a little bit of weight on the Jeep, is go ahead and adjust these out. Now it's important to remember that this is not going to be the final set for these. These are actually going to be adjusted again once we have all the weight on the vehicle. The vehicle doesn't have any drivetrain or anything in it, so right now everything's just kind of going to be mock-up. So I'm going to go ahead and install these sway bar end links. First part of the process is to go ahead and set the bullet pin into the sway bar facing outward, nut facing inward, and then kind of adjust to see where we're at from there. Once again, we're just trying to get them to fit right now. This isn't going to be something that stays like this. We're going to have to adjust them again. And special thanks to my neighbor for deciding to mow their yard for the first time in about 2 months. It's awesome. So now that I've got the end links installed, I'm going to go ahead and install the front shocks. I haven't installed the rear shocks yet. I got to do a YJ shock relocator on there. But those are going to be kind of an episode all their own, just because of the unique nature of the modifications that got to be made to it. Now, I bought some YJ shock relocators, but they're not exactly as advertised. They're going to take some pretty good modifications to do. So we're going to go ahead and do the front shocks and a front steering stabilizer right now, and see what we can do about getting this front end all the way buttoned up. Alright guys, so here's the very last part that we're going to install today. Now this is a Rubicon Express rear shock relocator for a YJ. One of the problems when you put the wedges in to straighten up the rear axle and get the pinion angle back on a YJ is it makes your shock bodies hit the actual axle tube itself. So Rubicon Express came out with these. Now these are great in theory, but things are not all as they seem. These don't exactly line up the way they're supposed to. You've got one bolt here, and you've got this right here, which is supposed to be a double shear bracket through the actual shock mount itself, but it doesn't exactly work like that. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Alright, so if you see here, we can put our bolt through the back, but once we put our bolt through the back, this hole right here does not line up on the side. This has been welded in the wrong spot. So we're going to have to move this sleeve in here physically rearward to get it to line up. I don't know how this got made wrong. I've watched a couple YouTube videos that have actually talked about this, so I guess I'm not the only one that's had these mismade. But what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go ahead and cut these spot welds on the inside right here, physically pull this sleeve, and then we're going to go ahead and bolt the back in, mark where the hole actually lines up, and then go ahead and re-drill it and re-weld that. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we went ahead and just cut those two spot welds out real quick and got the sleeve out of there. Now I'm going to go ahead and bolt this thing up and see how it lines up. So guys, now you can see a little bit better what I'm talking about. If you look at this bracket right here, you see how far off that bolt hole is. Now what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to go ahead and scribe this hole right here, and we're going to have to drill and move that sleeve, re-weld it in. Now I'm assuming that that's where it is, because you might not be able to get this bolt in and out, but we can always run the bolt in from the back side and just put the nut on the inside. So we're going to go ahead and scribe that hole out and move that sleeve so we can get a double shear bracket on this as well. It has been a long and hot day, but we got a ton accomplished. We now have shocks and a steering stabilizer on the Jeep. We also have our shock relocators modified. We have our adjustable sway bar end links on there. We've got the sway bar on there. We've got the thing on wheels and tires, albeit we do not have axle shafts yet. I ordered a stub shaft. It came in, it had the wrong U-joint size, so little did I know that they switched those over the years. So we're gonna just go ahead and order some chromoly axle shafts, redo the whole front end, and have a blast with it. As far as right now goes, this thing is rolling around, so it is time to go ahead and start tearing apart our donor Jeep sitting outside. We're gonna go over the ins and outs of donor Jeeps in our next video. I'm gonna let you know what you need to look for in your donor Jeep, some things that you can do to make your swap a success, things to look out for, especially with YJs. Let's go ahead and take a quick walk around the Jeep and take a look at what we've done. So you can see here that our axle is no longer going to contact our shocks. We do have plenty of room here. Our Rubicon Express shock relocators worked out after we modified them, but that's okay. I'd rather modify the parts than the Jeep. Coming around front here, we got our beefy sway bar disconnects from Rusty's Offroad. One thing to note is this sway bar will not stay at this angle. There is no weight on the chassis of the Jeep right now, and when we do get weight on it, I expect that it's going to settle some, and we will be able to set the angle of these appropriately when that happens. We do have our steering stabilizer installed on our steering linkage. We have our shocks installed up front here. We got our hubs installed, and we're on wheels and tires, guys. Look, this thing rolls now. That's awesome. This is the first time since October, when we started working on this project, that we now have a full rolling chassis. Looks absolutely fantastic. This thing is going to be sweet. Once again, we got some more parts ordered, but as always, these projects kind of evolve as they go. I am very sorry that I don't have axle shafts in there. I know it's kind of hacked to put it on wheels and tires without axle shafts, but it is what it is. Sometimes you got to make those sacrifices, in effect, to keep moving forward. So that's what we did. We're moving forward. Next video, tearing apart the donor Jeep, talking about it, showing you guys what you can and can't do, what you should and should not look for, especially with the YJ. Thanks so much for stopping by. Please comment, like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.